I met Lily on a Friday night at a small bar near downtown. She was laughing with friends, glowing under the dim lights. When she smiled at me, everything else in the room disappeared. She said she liked my hands, rough from work but steady. I told her I managed construction projects, and she looked impressed. She said she was tired of roommates and wanted something stable. I thought she meant she wanted love. 6 months later, she moved into my place. Her clothes filled my closet before I realized it was happening. She said my house finally felt like home because she was in it. I believed her. I paid the rent, the groceries, the car payment, the phone bill. She quit her full-time job and said she wanted to focus on her passion. She worked at a boutique 20 hours a week and called it a career. I didn't care. I was in love, and she looked happy. Sometimes she cooked dinner and lit candles on the table. Other nights, she curled against me on the couch and watched TV. I told myself that was enough. Her friends called me a good guy, dependable, the kind you marry. Lily called me her rock, her safe place, the man who made her feel calm. It felt good hearing that. I didn't see the small signs. She started talking about how tired she was of working retail. She said she wanted to be surrounded by people with ambition. She wanted dinners at nicer restaurants, vacations, new clothes. I worked harder to give her those things. Overtime became routine. Late nights at the job site replaced quiet evenings at home. Every paycheck went into making her smile. When I asked if she wanted to help with expenses, she laughed softly. "You make more than enough, Ethan," she said. "Don't worry about it." So I didn't. I told myself that's what love looks like, sacrifice without question. Her boutique job became a hobby. She said she needed time to explore her creativity. I nodded and told her to follow her dreams. I never asked what those dreams were. Maybe I didn't want to know. Every time she showed me a new dress or bag, I smiled. I didn't see how her world was expanding, while mine stayed the same. When we got married, she wanted a big wedding, a designer dress, an open bar. I said yes to everything. $35,000 later, she said it was perfect. I told her she deserved it. She kissed me and whispered, "You always take care of me." Back then, those words felt like love. Now I know they were a promise I couldn't keep forever. Because when someone only stays for comfort, they never stay for long. And when love becomes a transaction, it always ends in debt. After the wedding, everything changed. The woman who once kissed me goodbye every morning barely looked at me now. She stopped waking up early and spent most mornings scrolling through her phone. Her boutique job turned into an excuse to go shopping. Every week new clothes arrived, tags still hanging, bags piled by the closet. When I came home from 12-hour shifts, she was on the couch in pajamas. The sink full of dishes, laundry spilling out of baskets, leftovers cold in the fridge. I tried to ignore it. I told myself she was just adjusting to married life. One night I walked in soaked from rain after a long day. She didn't even pause her show when I greeted her. "Hey babe," I said, dropping my tool belt by the door. "Fine," she said flatly, eyes glued to the TV. I waited for her to ask about my day, but she never did. The house smelled like takeout and cheap candles. When I asked if she'd eaten, she said she had Chipotle earlier. She didn't save me any. I sat at the kitchen table eating cold leftovers, feeling invisible in my own home. When I mentioned maybe we could get dinner together the next night, she rolled her eyes. "Order whatever you want," she said. "It's your money anyway." That phrase cut deeper than she realized. Your money. Like it was some tool she tolerated, instead of something that kept her life running. I asked if she could work more hours to help out. She laughed, a short, cruel sound that didn't belong in a marriage. "Ethan, you make almost 6 figures. Don't be dramatic." I told her it wasn't about money. It was about partnership. She called her job a stepping stone to something in fashion, something meaningful. Then she looked at me and said I lacked ambition, that I was content swinging a hammer forever. Those words stung. I wasn't a labor anymore. I managed teams, handled budgets, built projects worth millions. But in her eyes, I was still the guy in the hard hat. She wanted more: status, luxury, validation. I wanted peace, stability, love. We stopped meeting in the middle. She mocked my friends for working blue-collar jobs. She said they were nice people, but not real professionals. I started dreading coming home. Every word from her felt like a reminder I wasn't enough. When I asked what she wanted from me, she said, to grow. Grow into what? I didn't ask. Maybe she wanted a husband who made her look important, not one who made her feel safe. That night, I lay awake beside her, listening to her steady breathing. I reached for her hand, hoping to bridge the silence. She pulled away and whispered, "Don't touch me tonight." 5 words. Sharp, final, cold. I turned to face the wall, and in that darkness, I realized the truth. The woman in my bed wasn't my partner anymore. She was a stranger living off my paycheck. And I was just the man funding her comfort while she dreamed of someone better. I didn't sleep that night. Her words echoed in my head like a broken record. Don't touch me tonight. 5 simple words that built a wall between us. I stared at the ceiling, wondering how we had become strangers. The woman I used to hold close now flinched from my hand. I lay there until dawn, realizing something had died quietly between us. It wasn't sudden. It had been fatting for months, while I kept pretending we were fine. Love doesn't end in a scream. It ends in silence, in indifference, in the way she looked through me. When morning came, she acted like nothing happened. She made coffee, humming to herself, scrolling on her phone. No eye contact, no apology, just another day in the house I built. I watched her pour milk into her cup, perfectly calm, perfectly distant. That calmness hurt more than anger ever could. I wanted to ask if she still loved me, but the answer was in her silence. So I left for work without a word. At the site, I tried to focus, but every hammer hit echoed her voice. Don't touch me tonight. I realized I had spent years building her comfort, not our marriage. She didn't see me as a partner anymore. I was a paycheck, a provider, a safety net. The more I gave, the less she respected me. And that's when something in me shifted. Not rage, not heartbreak, just clarity. If love had become a transaction, it was time to close the account. That night, I didn't try to talk to her. I just sat in the living room, watching the shadows move across the floor. I thought about how much I had sacrificed: sleep, time, dignity. And for what? To be treated like a placeholder until someone better came along. Around midnight, I started packing a small bag. Not to leave yet, but to remind myself I could. I placed it in the closet behind my jackets, where she wouldn't notice. A quiet promise to myself. The next morning, I looked at her differently. Not with love or anger, but with distance. She talked about needing new shoes for work. I nodded, but inside I'd already left. I realized she wasn't my problem anymore. Her happiness was no longer my responsibility. I'd spent years trying to fix something she never wanted to keep. So I stopped trying. That night, before going to bed, I whispered something she couldn't hear. Goodbye, Lily. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. Just a quiet decision, buried under the noise of her indifference. The next day, I called in sick for the first time in 2 years. I didn't want to build anything for anyone else that day. I just wanted to figure out how to rebuild myself. Because sometimes, walking away isn't weakness. It's the only way to remember who you are. I spent that morning sitting at the kitchen table, staring at my coffee. The same table I bought, the same chair she never sat beside anymore. The house was quiet, but it didn't feel peaceful. It felt empty, like all the warmth had been drained out. I opened my laptop and started looking at our finances. The numbers told a story I had ignored for too long. Her spending was out of control. Designer clothes, spa visits, constant takeout, and expensive lunches. Every dollar I earned disappeared into her comfort. Meanwhile, my truck needed repairs, and I kept putting it off. She said we couldn't afford it. I finally understood what she meant. We couldn't afford it because she was spending it. I felt stupid for not seeing it earlier. I'd been so busy providing that I never noticed what I was providing for. That day, I called my friend Mark. He'd gone through a divorce a few years ago. When I told him what was happening, he sighed deeply. "Ethan, you need to protect yourself," he said. He explained everything: documents, accounts, proof of spending. I wrote it all down. Then I went to the bank and opened a new checking account in my name only. I set up my paycheck to split, most to the joint account, some to my new one. Small amounts, nothing noticeable. It wasn't about running away yet. It was about being ready. That night, Lily came home with shopping bags again. She said she needed new clothes for her career. Her part-time boutique job, the one she barely showed up for. I smiled and asked how much she spent. She said, "It was on sale, don't worry about it." But I did. Every bag she carried was another reason to leave. Over the next few weeks, I started tracking everything. Receipts, statements, every useless thing she bought. She spent more in 1 month on makeup than I did on gas. I took pictures, saved emails, documented every detail. It became my quiet revenge, truth as a weapon. At night, I acted normal. We watched TV, had dinner, pretended to be a couple. But in my head, I was already gone. I stopped working overtime. She noticed and asked why. I told her I was trying to find balance. She smiled, thinking she'd finally changed me. But really, I just stopped funding her illusion. When she wanted to go out, I said we should save money. When she wanted to shop, I reminded her of bills. Slowly, she began dipping into her own savings. It was small, but I could feel control shifting. Each dollar she spent from her stash was one less weapon against me. Every lie she told became one more thing I could use later. For the first time in years, I didn't feel trapped. I was planning quietly, carefully, step by step. And every plan started the same way, without her knowing. Because when love turns into survival, silence becomes your greatest strength. It happened on a Wednesday evening. I'd forgotten my phone charger at home and decided to swing by after work. Lily was supposed to be at the boutique until 8. But her car was already in the driveway when I pulled up. At first, I thought she might be sick or off early. Then I heard her voice from the kitchen, low and sharp. "I know it's not forever," she said to someone on the phone. "Once my business takes off, I won't have to pretend anymore." I froze in the hallway, my heart pounding. Business, pretend. I leaned closer, barely breathing. "Living with him is getting harder," she continued. "He has no ambition, but the financial security is nice." My stomach twisted. "He doesn't suspect a thing. He's too busy working to notice." Her laugh was soft but cruel. "I'm saving everything I can. When it's ready, I'll divorce him and take half." It felt like being punched in the chest. The woman I built a life for was planning to use me as funding. She was building a future without me, using money I earned. I backed away quietly, hands shaking, and left the house. I sat in my truck for 10 minutes, trying to breathe. Anger came first, then disbelief, then something colder. Clarity. That night, I didn't confront her. I needed proof. Over the next few days, I started digging. I checked our bank statements and credit card history. Hidden between grocery bills and gas charges were odd payments. Web design, business license fees, marketing services, all of them under her name. I contacted a friend who worked at the bank. He confirmed it. Lily had opened a separate business account 8 months ago. The name on it was Lily Hart Consulting. She'd been funneling money from our joint account straight into hers. Every time she told me money was tight, she was lying. Every time I worked late, she was saving what I earned. She even cut her work hours at the boutique without telling me. Her boss mentioned she'd barely been showing up. The job was just a cover for her secret project. I felt sick reading the numbers. Thousands of dollars gone, all disguised as household expenses. And then the final insult. She charged her business expenses to our shared card. I was paying for the company she'd used to leave me. That was the moment I stopped feeling guilty. She wasn't my wife anymore. She was a thief in designer heels. From that day on, I became someone new. Quiet, calculating, patient. Every smile I gave her was a lie. Every word I spoke was strategy. I knew the game now, and I would play it better. Because she thought she was smarter. She thought she could outplan the man who built everything from nothing. But she forgot one thing. I build things for a living. And I was about to build her downfall. 6 months after I started quietly preparing, everything was in place. I had saved enough for a deposit on an apartment and a buffer for living expenses. I had documented every transaction, every lie, every missed shift. I had a lawyer who understood financial deception and what to do with it. Most importantly, I had patience. I stopped working overtime and focused on appearing calmer at home. She noticed and smiled, thinking she'd softened me. I never gave away the plan with my face or my words. When her boutique boss called to say she'd been missing shifts, I listened. She lied about being sick and about special projects. Those lies piled up like receipts in a drawer. Then I told her father what I had found. I wanted someone who loved her to know the truth before it got worse. Her father called her, and the conversation echoed through the house. She begged, flailed, and promised explanations that never came. His disappointment cut through the pretense like a clean blade. Without the safety net, she began to spiral. I watched without gloating. I watched with the cold satisfaction of someone who finally saw truth revealed. The boutique let her go for no-shows and poor performance. She came home the night they fired her, clutching empty shopping bags and excuses. I kept my tone flat and said, "That's too bad." She panicked and started using her secret savings faster than she expected. She called friends, asked for favors, and tried to patch a life built on borrowed time. I escalated quietly with my lawyer at the same time. We prepared documents that detailed every dollar she diverted into her business. We prepared a timeline of her lies and forged a legal path that could not be ignored. Then, at a birthday party for one of her friends, I served her papers. It was public and precise. Her face shifted from confusion to rage to humiliation in seconds. People who applauded her hustle watched the truth land in her lap. She screamed at me, pleaded, and tried to turn the room into an audience for her lies. No one believed the performance anymore. Her friends had seen the receipts I'd handed out with the papers. Her father stood quietly in the corner, ashamed and resolute. The lawyer argued our case with a calm that made the truth obvious. Half of the money in her consulting account was declared marital property. She had funded her plan from our household funds and our shared cards. When the settlement landed, her business lost the capital it needed to survive. Within weeks, her startup sputtered and failed. Without money, and without friends willing to cover for her, she moved back in with her parents. They made it clear she needed to get a real job and pay rent. Pride, the last thing she had left, was gone. Months later, she called me crying for a second chance. She said she'd learned the value of what I offered beyond money. I listened for 5 minutes to the apology she had rehearsed. Then I said, "You didn't miss me. You missed what I paid for." I hung up before she could argue. I started seeing someone new, who matched my work ethic and my values. She appreciates effort, not bank accounts. She meets me at the middle, not the top of a pedestal. Sometimes I think of the house and the silence that used to live there. I think of the man who packed a bag behind a row of jackets. I think of patience and quiet planning as a kind of self-rescue. And I know I did the right thing for myself. I rebuilt what mattered, piece by steady piece. It's been a year since I walked away. The house is gone, the memories packed and left behind. I live in a small apartment now, quiet, clean, mine. No more shouting, no more cold silences in the dark. I wake up early, make coffee, and breathe without tension. Sometimes I catch myself thinking about the past. Not with regret, but with understanding. I wasn't a failure for loving her. I was just a man who gave too much to the wrong person. Lily taught me something painful but necessary. Love without respect will always turn into resentment. Now I'm with someone who works beside me, not above me. We split the bills, share the load, build things together. It feels different, lighter, real. Every scar from that marriage reminds me of who I became. Not a victim, not a fool, just someone who finally woke up. Sometimes, late at night, I remember her voice. Don't touch me tonight. And I smile. Because now, I know that losing her was the best thing that ever happened to me.